Welcome back to another deep dive. We're just thrilled you're taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you're listening, you're probably already on that constant quest for better recovery.
Oh, absolutely. You know the drill. It's optimizing sleep, dialing in nutrition, and just constantly searching for ways to manage the daily grind.
Right, trying to bridge that gap between demanding workouts and the very real need for our bodies to just repair themselves.
And that pursuit is actually driving a massive shift in how we view our homes. Like, people are moving away from outsourcing their wellness.
Exactly. Nobody wants the friction of driving to a clinic or sharing a crowded public space just to trigger a parasympathetic recovery state.
Which is why today's source material is so highly relevant for you. We are diving into a comprehensive, totally unfiltered review of the Heatwave 2-person Hemlock Premium Infrared Sauna with 6 carbon heaters.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is, but it claims to offer this commercial-grade infrared therapy in a package you can supposedly just, slide into your spare room.
So, okay, let's unpack this. What are we actually dealing with here from a functional standpoint?
Well, we're looking at a dedicated indoor-only FAR infrared microenvironment. It's constructed from solid Canadian hemlock wood.
Just hemlock all the way through.
Right, entirely hemlock. And the core proposition here is bringing radiant heat therapy into a compact footprint without needing a commercial contractor to come tear up your house.
The review leans really heavily on the fact that this is a FAR infrared unit. And I've seen so much debate in the biohacking space about infrared versus traditional models that just blast the air to like 190 degrees.
Oh yeah, the purists love their 190-degree rooms.
Right. So I know the basic difference is radiant versus ambient heat, but how does that actually change the physiological experience for you sitting inside? What's fascinating here is the specific mechanism of energy transfer. So traditional high-heat saunas operate on convection. They heat the air, which then eventually heats the surface of your skin.
It's a pretty harsh application of heat.
Very harsh. But FAR infrared bypasses the air almost entirely. These carbon panels emit electromagnetic waves that penetrate your skin and interact directly with human tissue.
So it's warming your body from the inside out, essentially.
Exactly. Because the energy warms you directly, the ambient air inside the unit only needs to reach about 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wait. A lot of traditional sauna fans will say 140 degrees just isn't hot enough. They want that blistering, suffocating heat. Is 140 actually going to give you a profound sweat, or does it just feel like sitting in a mildly warm room?
That is such a common misconception. The sheer temperature of the air is not the main driver of the physiological response here. Because those FER waves penetrate deeper into the soft tissue, they stimulate a really vigorous sweat response at much lower air temperatures.
You still get the benefits.
You're getting the cardiovascular benefits, the increased heart rate, the vasodilation, all without that hostile environment of breathing in scorching air. It dramatically lowers the physiological stress barrier. You can stay in longer.
And recover more comfortably. Now, I'm looking at the spec sheet from the review, and it highlights these 6 carbon heaters. I've seen competing units use ceramic, or maybe they only have 3 or 4 panels. Why 6 panels for a unit this size?
6 panels in a footprint this compact is entirely about eliminating cold spots. Radiant heat is highly directional.
Like a flashlight.
Exactly like a flashlight. If you only have heaters on your back and front, your sides are going to remain significantly cooler, which disrupts the whole vasodilation process. By surrounding you with 6 panels, it creates an overlapping field of energy. Plus, these specific panels emit wavelengths in the 5 to 12 micron range.
Okay, why does that specific 5 to 12 micron range matter?
It comes down to cellular resonance. Human tissue naturally emits and absorbs infrared energy most efficiently right around the 9.4 micron mark.
Oh,
So by concentrating the output in that 5 to 12 window, the heaters are matching your body's biological absorption rate. The energy isn't just bouncing off your skin, it's being optimally absorbed into the water molecules in your tissue,
creating that really heavy detoxifying sweat. But that efficiency has to rely on keeping the heat contained, which brings us to the physical build. You mentioned it's made of Canadian hemlock wood. Aside from looking like a fancy ski lodge, What is the functional purpose of hemlock over standard pine or cedar?
Hemlock is widely considered the gold standard for high-end residential saunas for a few structural reasons.
Yeah.
When you repeatedly heat a small box to 140 degrees and introduce a ton of human sweat, dimensional stability is paramount.
Because cheaper woods will just warp or crack.
They warp, expand, and eventually split under the thermal stress. Hemlock is incredibly stable. It resists warping, so you maintain that tight heat seal.
The review also notes it's a low-scent wood. I imagine that's pretty vital when you're trapped in a hot box.
It is entirely vital. Many aromatic woods smell great at room temperature, but bake them at 140 degrees, and they release volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and heavy resins.
Which would become a massive respiratory irritant.
Exactly. Hemlock is naturally low in those resins. Furthermore, it's naturally antimicrobial and highly resistant to mold and mildew,
which are the primary enemies of any indoor high humidity setup. The structural integrity seems super well thought out too. The review talks about a tongue-and-groove dual paneling system held together by quick clasp buckles.
so it snaps together fairly seamlessly.
Right, creating this airtight seal to prevent thermal leakage. And they threw in a bronze-tinted tempered glass door, which definitely elevates the look from, a wooden shipping crate to a premium wellness device.
The tempered glass is a really smart inclusion for psychological comfort, actually. Sitting in a completely enclosed wooden box can trigger claustrophobia for a lot of people. The tinted glass gives you a visual escape without losing heat.
Now, beyond the wood and the heaters, the review outlines a surprisingly robust suite of tech. You aren't just buying a hot room, you're buying a whole atmospheric control center. Let's talk about the dual control panels. There's one outside and one inside.
That internal control panel is an understated but crucial feature. Imagine you're deeply relaxed, 25 minutes into a session, and you want to extend the timer.
You don't want to have to open the door.
Exactly. Having to open the door, let out a massive volume of trapped heat, and step outside completely shatters the physiological state you just worked to achieve. Tactile control from the bench preserves the environment.
The ambiance is heavily prioritized too. It comes with chromotherapy lighting, an integrated FM, CD, and MP3 stereo system with dual speakers. You can plug in your phone, listen to podcasts while you sweat.
Integrating audio and specialized lighting speaks to the broader goal here, which isn't purely physical. Chromotherapy undeniably alters the psychological atmosphere of the space.
They also include an oxygen ionizer, which is advertised to eliminate odors and neutralize bacteria.
Right, and here we should apply a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah, do ionizers actually do anything meaningful in an environment like this?
This is a classic case of marketing versus mechanism. Generating negative ions can theoretically bind to airborne particulates, but the practical clinical benefit in a high humidity microenvironment is incredibly limited.
So it's mostly a gimmick.
It might make the air smell marginally crisper, but the core value of this unit is the radiant heat therapy. The ionizer is a secondary, maybe tertiary feature.
Got it. Focus on the heat, use the audio, treat the ionizer as a mild bonus. Now we have to talk about electrical realities. You're stepping into a wooden box packed with high wattage heaters. Safety certifications aren't optional.
No, and the review confirms the unit is fully UL and CEPL listed. That means every electrical component has undergone rigorous third-party testing for safety and fire prevention.
Crucial when you're putting a 1,725-watt device on your carpet. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the spec sheet looks great on paper, but no product survives contact with reality without some friction. Let's break down the real-world trade-offs, starting with the pros, then the reality check of the cons.
The fundamental mechanics deliver precisely what is promised. The 6 panels generate even, penetrating heat, and users consistently report it reaches its 140-degree maximum in roughly 20 minutes.
Which is perfect if you're trying to fit a sweat into a tight morning routine. The build quality is a massive pro too, but arguably the most significant advantage is the power requirement. It runs on a standard 120-volt, 15-amp household circuit.
The implications of that cannot be overstated. A huge number of high-end home saunas require a custom 240-volt electrical drop.
Which means hiring an electrician?
Hiring an electrician, running new conduit, installing a specialized outlet that can easily add $500 to over $1,000 to your true cost. By engineering this to run on a standard household outlet, they removed the single biggest financial and logistical barrier. It's truly plug and play.
You essentially get the luxury features, the dual controls, the chromotherapy at a mid-range price point without ripping open your drywall. That is compelling. But we have to look at the reality check, the cons. And the most glaring issue raised in the review is the physical footprint versus the marketing. The name prominently features the phrase two-person.
And the physical data severely undercuts that label. The external dimensions are roughly 6 feet 3 inches high, 3 feet 11 inches wide, and 3 feet 3 inches deep.
So the internal dimensions are even smaller. You're looking at an interior width of roughly 3 feet 7 inches. If you do the math and put 2 average-sized adults on that shallow bench, you have less than 22 inches of width per person. The average adult male shoulder width is around 18 inches.
You're effectively sitting shoulder to shoulder with your knees nearly touching the glass door. Yeah, that sounds rough.
If you are tall, broad-shouldered, or simply value personal space, it will feel incredibly claustrophobic. The data heavily suggests this operates best as a very spacious solo unit, rather than a comfortable tandem experience.
It's the ultimate test of a relationship, sweating in a tiny box together. Another significant con is the logistics of getting it into your home. This is not a lightweight package. It weighs 354 pounds and arrives via a freight carrier on a curbside pallet, broken down into 3 massive boxes.
The heaviest of which is around 170 pounds. And with heavy freight shipping comes the inevitable risk of transit trauma.
Right, the review aggregates reports of buyers receiving units with sheared hinges or base pieces that warped slightly in transit.
In some cases, users had to manually shim the base of the sauna with wood to stop it from rocking on uneven floors.
Which feeds directly into the final con, the assembly. They advertise that quick clasp system, but the reality is you are building heavy furniture. You absolutely need 2 reasonably strong adults. It only requires a screwdriver, but it demands patience and at least 1 to 2 hours of dedicated labor. You're aligning heavy wooden walls while routing electrical cables. It is a significant DIY commitment.
So knowing all of that, the fantastic electrical convenience juxtaposed with the cramped interior and heavy DIY assembly, what is the actual customer consensus? What are people saying once they actually have this running?
When you synthesize the aggregate reviews across major retailers, the overall satisfaction is remarkably resilient. It maintains an average rating of 4.7 out of 5 stars.
For a heavy freight-shipped product requiring user assembly, a 4.7 is a very strong indicator of value.
Extremely strong. Users consistently validate the heating efficiency. One reviewer explicitly noted it was perfect for a good sweat, confirming that 20-minute heat-up time.
And the most revealing feedback is about how it integrates into their daily lives. One user wrote, "We use it almost nightly. Feels relaxing, helps with sleep and post-workout recovery."
That highlights the psychological shift we discussed earlier. When the barrier to entry is just walking down the hall and pressing a button, compliance skyrockets.
I am also fascinated by how users actively problem-solve the cons. We know the bench is shallow. How are people dealing with the cramped space?
The user base developed a very pragmatic workaround. The unit ships with a wooden backrest designed to keep you slightly elevated off the rear heaters. But because the bench is so shallow, that backrest pushes you uncomfortably far forward.
So they just ditch it.
Exactly. Many users discovered that simply discarding the included backrest and leaning directly against the protective wooden slats covering the rear panels reclaims several crucial inches of legroom.
That's a great hack. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to decide if this specific piece of equipment deserves a dedicated corner in your home? Let's clarify exactly who this is built for.
This unit is the perfect match for the consumer who prioritizes accessibility over sprawling space. If you're a renter, or if you simply refuse to deal with hiring an electrician for a 240-volt circuit, this standard 120-volt plug-and-play sauna is your primary buying trigger.
It's also the ideal setup if you plan to use it primarily as a solo recovery pod. You get plenty of room to stretch out alone.
Or if you do share it, you both need to be entirely comfortable with extremely close proximity.
And crucially, you have to be comfortable with the reality of freight shipping and DIY assembly. You need to be willing to carry 170-pound boxes inside and spend an afternoon with a screwdriver. But conversely, who should immediately pass on this?
You should pass without hesitation if you are a larger individual who demands significant personal space, or if you firmly intend to use this with another person daily and want room to breathe.
You also need to walk away if you're a traditional sauna purist. If your protocol requires harsh 180-degree plus ambient air, this 140-degree radiant heat model will feel underwhelming to you.
Finally, if your expectation is a white glove experience where professionals deliver it, assemble it, run the wiring, and hand you a towel, this is not the product for you.
Right. To bring this all together, the final verdict from the source material is exceptionally clear. The Heatwave 2-person Hemlock Premium Infrared Sauna delivers aggressively on its core promises. Fast, deeply penetrating FAR infrared therapy, a durable hemlock structure, and luxury ambient features, all running on a standard household outlet.
The aggregate data strongly suggests it is a highly recommended investment, provided you ruthlessly measure your available space and are mentally prepared for the initial setup.
If you're analyzing your own recovery needs right now and realizing that a dedicated plug-and-play thermal environment is the missing piece of your routine, you can explore the exact specifications and buy the product at the link in the description below. Just ensure you measure your floor space and ceiling clearance first.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, consider the fundamental mechanism of FAR infrared technology. It deliberately abandons the inefficient process of heating massive volumes of empty air, choosing instead to target and warm the biological mass directly.
Right, warming the person, not the room.
Which raises an important question. How might this principle of hyper-efficient direct-to-source energy transfer eventually revolutionize how we regulate temperature in our larger living spaces? Could the future of home design shift entirely away from conditioning empty air and focus solely on efficiently conditioning the people within it?
What a brilliant concept to leave you with. Imagine completely rethinking the grid based on radiant personal heating. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this analysis brought some clarity to your personal recovery strategy. Keep analyzing the tools around you, keep questioning the consensus, and we will see you on the next one.
We rise like